Okay,
Hi, I'm Dalen.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dalen with Mizu Inc. And today we'll be showing you how to install the 403 Undertrack. So the first thing I like to do when I get to the job site is on this particular pool, it's an encapsulated gunite pool. But we're gonna go down and make sure this encapsulation is perfectly clean. I mean, no debris, dirt, little rocks or pebbles. Because as we install our track in the shim underneath, if there's any little deviants or bumps in there, it's gonna make it extremely difficult to get in, and you're gonna be pretty upset about it. So we're gonna go around the entire pool and make sure that this encapsulation is perfectly cleaned out. Important note, clean the bottom and that top channel. It's always important. If you miss that, as the track locks into the encapsulation, you're gonna get kind of pinched. So the next step we're gonna do is trim the encapsulation to length. So hopefully your job site, they've left the encapsulation running into the cover box. If not, we'll show you how to deal with that in a later step. But if they do have it hanging out, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark it sticking into the cover box 1 inch. And we can cut that with a Sawzall, skill saw, whatever you got handy. Make sure to wear those safety glasses. Also at this step, I like to cut off this flange here. Sometimes the system ends up sitting right here pretty close, so while you have your saw handy, just go ahead and trim that off. So now we're going to lay out the cover track on either side of the pool to cut them to length. We'll show you how to do that. So, looking at the track, this is the 403 3-channel track. So we have our slider track, and the two that look the same are the rope tracks. So, how you know which side it goes in? You have the flat side, that is the pool side, and the rounded side goes into the encapsulation or away from the pool. So when we lay this out, we want to lay it where our third channel, the slider channel, that flat edge, is facing the pool. So this piece, we're going to flip it around and lay it along the pool. Now I'm just laying it pretty close to the edge of the pool. I'll lay out each piece that I'm going to mark it and be able to cut it to the right length. The other option is you can measure your guide length and then lay the track out and cut it to length. But I just like to lay it out, mark it, see it right exactly where we're going to put it, and cut it to the length. Now in this particular pool, I don't remember the dimensions directly offhand, but these track pieces come in 21-foot lengths. So this piece we're going to get our 2 full lengths and then a 5th piece that we'll cut and use on both sides. So let's go and splice these 2 together, and then we'll get this 3rd piece on here. So with your extrusion kit, you're also going to come with the necessary hardware. Let's crack it open. So they're always going to come with our end cap pulleys, our splices, the track guides, our spring pins. Go ahead and get those installed. Alrighty, so to splice the 2 pieces of track together, we have this middle channel here for this splice, and 2 circle things here for your spring pins. Tab those in, and again, you're going to put this in halfway, just like on your encapsulation. So you have enough meat for both sides. Just like that. Get your splice, put that in there. Now, you're just gonna slide those together. Now if you're by yourself, you're gonna go down to one side and grab it and kind of tap it together. Or if you have a friend, you can have one person stand on it and tap it together. This you wanna use a rubber mallet, just so you don't dent the track. Okay, so one other tip, once we've spliced it together, make sure it's as flush as possible. You want to recenter that shim sometimes, or that splice, excuse me, because sometimes it'll shift. And what I like to do is get a flat head, and on that flange where the splice is, just kind of crimp that down a little bit, just to help that from shifting while we're moving the track. So we've spliced them all together. So next we're going to cut it to length. So go down to the non-motor, or the far side, and push it flush with the edge of your coping. So pretty close to it. And I'll come back down to this side, making sure this is sitting pretty square, straight on your, using your coping stone as a straight edge. With this cut, we've lined it up flush with the edge of the coping stone on the end. And now we're going to cut this track 1.5 inches past the end of the encapsulation. So just kind of eyeballing it. Line your tape up, 1.5 inches. Or I do, 2 fingers, which also just happens to be 1.5 inches. Now we'll do the same thing to the other side. Now that we've cut and spliced our track, we're going to run the ropes through them. So I'm going to roll our auto cover behind the cover box. It always rolls from the left side to the right from the factory. So we'll get that cover box, lay it out right here, and unspool the ropes. So when opening your cover, never cut the tape like this. You can cut the cover, it's happened before. So come on the side, just cut these tabs off, lay it back. Unroll from left to right. So here, dump that out. Never want to drag it, but kind of line it up where the track's gonna go in. Unroll it. And undo the rope, and so you wanted to make sure there's no knots or tangles in the rope. So typically what I like to do is unspool the rope. If I have the room, I'll go straight back for as long as the rope is. Trying to take out any of the loop or the memory on that rope. If not, what I like to do is a little figure 8. So have the rope come off the front side, go straight, and hook back, and then just do a quick figure 8. A lot of guys will just do little circles. What this does is it helps get that coil out of the rope. Makes it a little easier pulling the rope through. A little step that makes it a little bit easier down the road. So just uncoil it, make sure there's no knots. And if you don't do a circle, you don't get as dizzy. Perfect, just like that. And you get your rope, come down, and remember you have your slider channel and your 2 rope channels. So what we're going to do is pop this into the rope channel on the pool side. So what I like to do, twist in my hands just like that, and kind of shimmy it in, just like that. Then you're just gonna pull it all the way down to the end, and I'll put the end cap pulley on. Kind of walk along the track as you go, make your life a little easier. Yeah, let me go, bro. Okay, so you have your end cap pulley, just a twist lock, nothing crazy. So what I do, you're gonna pop this rope back into the back rope channel, same way, kind of pops in really easy. Just like that, leaving a little loop there for you. Get your pulley, put it around the pulley, twist the top back on, and it's gonna go in that same channel as the splice went in the splice went in the middle there. Just like that. Okay, and another tip is, if this seems a little loose, you can always crimp it with a hammer and flathead just like we did before. Just like that. Got that in. Not going anywhere. Now, pull the rope all the way back again. Now, if you're by yourself, only have a couple guys with you, it helps as you're trying to drop the track in. Is what I like to do is tie a little knot in it, pull the slack out, just to help give the track a little more rigidity. So as we drop it in, it stays a little more rigid. So over a knot, pull it out, tie it off. You're gonna go. Now this is good to drop into the encapsulation. But we'll do the same thing on the other side first. I'm gonna show you how to install this, drop this track in by yourself. So you're starting the deep end. I like to come about midway or you know, have a full piece of track, a little bit past that, 2/3 of the way or so. And what you want to do is drop that end cap pulley into that end piece of encapsulation, just like so. Then on that far side, you're going to kick that onto the bond beam, just like that. Now, when you come in encapsulation, spread your arms as wide as you can, and then slip that back in, sliding down, and just kick that back in the encapsulation. Just like that. So our next step, we've just dropped in the encapsulation. Now, before we do shim the track into place, I like to install the guide feed to make sure that it's placed correctly, then we'll shim it and lock it into place. So, come down to here under your track. So you have your female and male ends. And do is you get your ropes in these little divots here, just like so. And that male piece swings in, locks in, just like that. And it's going to slide into those, into the track just like that. Or these stops are inside the track. Now what I like to do is, see right here how it's sitting flush against the encapsulation. I like it to stick out about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. Just like that. So as I shim it, if it does shift a little bit, I know that this guide feed is going to still be able to lock and flush just like that. So that's where I'll put it, just like that, and I'll do the same thing the other side. Now if I do, let's say, 1/8 of an inch, a little bit more, just whatever I do, match on the other side so they're the same. Now we can go ahead and go down the other side and we'll shim it into place. So the shim we have today is actually the Latham's vinyl liner shim. This is for a gunite pool, but it's what we had on hand, so that's what we're going to use. The one you might have has a thicker flange at the front here, just like has your arrow, you know, deep flange or a thicker flange. Either way, you're going to put this arrow side in first underneath the track, that'll lock it into place. So grab a mallet and I'll head down and get that going. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So you make sure your track is seated all the way in. The arrow. Now I like to go flush right with the end of the track, just like so. And it should push in fairly easy. Just get a rubber mallet, tap that into place all the way down. Sometimes it's a little loose. As far as it going in, just gonna have to hold it as it bounces it so it doesn't bounce out. But you go all the way down. Make sure not to hit your tile. Make your tile guy upset. Again, an important note, make sure as your track is seated back all the way. If not, it's not going to line up in that groove that locks it into the encapsulation. And it's going to be really, really tight. So you know if it's tight, something's wrong. Just like that. Next piece, and make sure you're going to put this nice and flush, but it goes underneath the track and on the above the encapsulation. Tap it nice and flush. Alright, so it should be clean enough when you put it in with your fingertips, just like that. So to cut your shim, you can get some scissors, or I actually have a little box cutter knife. Cut it in the middle of your bond wall. Just perforate it just like that. Breaks nice and easy. Tap the rest of that in. Just like that, locks it into place. So we just finished installing this shim. Next what we want to do is, so the shim will keep the track from shifting into the pool, right? It can't pull onto the pool. But with enough friction, you could pull the track back into the cover box. So to prevent that, the reason we leave the encapsulation here is we're actually going to put a screw through the top of this into the track, holding that track from shutting in and out. If for whatever reason this was cut flush, what you can do instead is, with every pre-concrete kit, you're going to get a little piece of angled metal called a guide retainer. And that would just mount underneath the track right here, and then your guide feed screw would go in through that guide retainer. We don't like to use them. They fail a little more often than the screw. So on any given, if you can, I always try to do the screw option. So get a 3/16 drill bit, and then our 5/16 hex head screw that comes with any mechanism. Usually I have a couple hanging around. So Get your dent started. Angle if you need to, so you get your drill through. And what we're aiming for is that we're gonna aim for that splice channel right there. So we're not hitting any of the ropes or any part that matters. So we're gonna go right there. One, to the bottom of the encapsulation, to the track. Now, to the bottom. Ream it out a little bit. Now it's really important not to break this screw. So what I like to do is, as I'm putting it in, as it gets tight, kind of back it out, back in, back out, back in nice and flush. So now the track can't shift into the cover box or into the pool from the shim. So the last thing we gotta do for the track is we gotta drill out the hole for the guide feed. So what I like to do is I just put the female bottom on piece on, use that same 3/16 drill bit, and this stem right here is kind of lined up right perfectly with that screw hole. So what I do is I put the female end in, kind of line up my drill bit up with that, and drill through the bottom, just like that. Now on this one, ream it out pretty good, just like that. So when we come back with our guide feed screw, in that guide feed screw bag, it's gonna come with two options. You have a hex head, or excuse me, an Allen key head, or a Phillips head. Notice the difference in length. If you end up having to do the guide retainer, so not with the screw in the top, that's why this is a little bit longer, so you can make it through the bottom of the guide retainer. This one is just if it's like this. And when we put this on, we don't want any friction between the screw and that track. So when we ream out that hole, we want to make this to just drop in, so just like that. Not touching anything. And also an important note, on the bottom of the guide feed is a seat for the nut. So that should be able to sit in there. If not, it's a 3/8 nut. Remember, line your ropes up, male end in, and you slide it on. And that screw should just drop right in. Put your nut on. All done. Tracks are done. Okay, that's everything for today. If you have any questions about what we did, go ahead and give our office a call or call your account rep. And you can always go ahead and find more information at getmizu.com.